Okay, welcome back to the exciting book of Genesis. Well, we're going through the book of Genesis, and today we're going to be speaking concerning chapter 8. Hallelujah. Now, Scripture tells us that God tells us the end from the beginning. And so it is with Genesis, and even with Genesis chapter 8. The Messiah said, that his coming back and the end of all time, the last days, the last of the last days, will be even as in the days of Noah. So this is very pertinent to those of us that live today, because we're the closest group of people to those last of the last days that have ever lived before on the planet Earth. No one is closer to that group of the last days than we are today. And then if we make it till tomorrow, then we'll be that one day closer. Point being that it's fast approaching. It's been 2,000 years. You would be thinking that it's coming to a close sometime in the near future. But whether it is or isn't the case. What we here do today is to see what Scripture has to teach us concerning those times, so that when they do come, we can know about it. Amen. So that we're not left in the dark. Amen. Amen. Okay, so I love the prayer Sister Kim prayed, to open our spiritual eyes and ears, because you're gonna need them in this lesson. So let's jump right in. Genesis 8:1 says, "And Elohim remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And Elohim made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged." Okay, now we had already spoke about the flood equating to the end times, when it's spoken of that the dragon will, the serpent of old will spew out a flood from his mouth. And we spoke about how the last day prophecy, the prophecies concerning the last days, was kind of like a shadow of what we see here in Genesis chapter 6, 7, 8 on through 9, the story of Noah. And of course we are told that as in those last days, as in the days of Noah, so will it be in the last days. So with that being said, we've been going through the story of Noah and pertaining it to what's to come in the last days. And we spoke about the water being the flood of lies. We spoke about Noah representing the comforter, and building the ark, speaking to the covenant of our Elohim that we're all encased in, that's going to keep us safe. That's what keeps us safe, is being in covenant with the Most High El. And that is type of our ark nowadays. And last week we seen where the fountains of the deep were broken up, and the waters began to rise, and the windows of heaven was opened up, and the rains began to pour, and we spoke about the symbolism concerning that. And now here today, everything's covered with water. Everything's covered with water. And this water is killing everything. So, this water can be pictured as really as death itself, because this water is what's bringing death to all of the world. And, so within that we see a time when death will reign over the world. It says, and Noah remembered, and Elohim remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And we spoke about Noah and his family and representation, what that they typified, the priesthood and all the animals, typifying Israel and the Gentiles, which is all the plan of Elohim to save, from all walks of life. Now, here it is, this word remember. Remember is Zakar number 2142, meaning to mark, so as to be recognized, that is to remember. You know, so here it is, we see Elohim Zakar, Noah, and every living thing. You know, it literally says Elohim marked them. Now you can mark something so that you'll remember it, and that's the reason that you do mark things. You know, but I want to emphasize that it does specifically says in Elohim mark Noah and every living thing. And when we consider the times of Noah and we consider the times, the end times that Scripture speaks of, it also speaks of Yah's people being marked. It's just a coincidence, though. You know, no, I jest. It's not a coincidence. But, you know, it actually speaks that during the last days that Yah's people would be marked, even as we see, you know, that Elohim marked Noah and every living thing. Well, in Revelation 7:3-4, it speaks to this. It says, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Elohim in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. And this word sealed actually speaks to being marked. You know, so here it is, we do see Yah's people being marked or sealed. Now, it also goes on, say after this, you know, after seeing the 12,000 from each tribe of Israel, you know, immediately after that, it says, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number. You know, so here it is, we have 12,000 from each tribe of Israel, along with a great multitude which no man could number. Well, where are they from? It says from of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our Elohim which sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb. Hallelujah. You know, so here it is, we see, even as Elohim marked Noah and every living thing, Elohim in the last days will also mark his elect and every living thing that's going to be saved within the world during that time as well. So we do see a parallel with this. Now, again, we're going to deal with another part of Genesis 8:1, and it says, and Elohim made a wind to pass over the earth. This word wind is 7307 in the Hebrew, and it's ruach, you know, and speaks to a wind or spirit, you know, if you would, it's oftentimes translated as spirit. So now we're talking about Elohim making a wind, or that is a spirit, to pass over the earth. And the word pass over is translated from the Hebrew word al, and could mean upon or over. You know, so it can just as easily read, and Elohim made a spirit to go upon the earth. You know, now this spoke to a time, as we said earlier, when the waters literally covered the earth, which in turn speaks to us of a time when death will literally reign upon the earth. You know, and some people aren't aware of this, but there's coming a time in the last days in which death will reign upon the earth. It's not now. I know it seemed like that sometimes, but there's coming a time when death, you know, will literally reign upon the earth. In Revelations 9:1-4, my first reader, please.
And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of the great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of Elohim in their foreheads.
Hallelujah. Thank you. So here it is. We see that there will be a spirit that's going to come to the earth. Star is synonymous with angel or spirit, you know, and that will come from heaven unto the earth, and to him will be given the key to the bottomless pit. And it says, and he opened the bottomless pit, and locusts came out. You know, and this is, of course, speaking to the locust army. You know, which rises up, and it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal or mark of Elohim in their foreheads. So can you see, I pray that you can see that, you know, there's a parallel in the end times, you know, that parallels what's happening here in Genesis 8. You know, there's coming a time when death will truly reign upon the earth, and this locust army is his army. You know, and they're given, you know, the power and authority to actually hurt people. You know, but those who are sealed, you know, those who are marked of Elohim, those who are in the ark, that is, within the covenant, covenanted with Yahshua, you know, and having the Ruach HaKodesh, those won't be hurt. You know, they're going to be okay, even as those that was in the ark with Noah was okay. Amen. Now, again, in Romans 8:1, it speaks to the water being assuaged. You know, and at first I didn't think much about this, but then, you know, I looked at a couple verses later, and it speaks about the water being abated, and you know, you would think that they would be synonymous terms, but you know, they actually weren't. You know, so you know, I looked into Hebrew, and assuaged is shakak, number 79:18, and it means to weave. That is to lay a trap. Figuratively, it means to allay or appease or assuage. You know, so what's being said here is literally that the waters entrap, or the waters lay a trap. Now, just how will the waters, that is, you know, that speaks to death, ensnare the peoples of the world, you know, during the last times? And Revelation 13 teaches us how death will actually ensnare the peoples of the world. Come on, next reader, read Revelations 13:11 through 14, please.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven and the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live.
Okay, so just as a little backdrop, what we have going on here, you know, remember how we spoke to the serpent spewing out this flood, you know, upon the earth, you know, and this flood's trying to wash away all the righteous, you know. Now, this water or flood begins to accumulate upon the earth. It begins to rise, you know, and these lies begin to drown people, and people begin to die in those lies. But the saints, you know, they come out and they fight against those lies, you know, and this is kind of what's going on in the last time. You know, they're fighting against these lies, but then there comes, you know, and it even appears as though we get the victory, but then another beast rises up out of the earth. The first beast rose up out of the sea. Now this beast, he rises up out of the earth, and he has 2 horns like a lamb, yet he speaks like a dragon. You know, and this of course speaks to the false prophet. You know, see, and this is where the waters ensnare people. This is where the trap comes in at. You know, you have this beast that comes up out of the earth, and he has two horns, you know, like a lamb, and but he's speaking like a dragon, so he's looking like one thing and sounding like another. You know, and it says that he exercises all the power of the first beast that was before him, and causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. You know, now if you listen to that, you know, you can make a lot of parallels with that, you know, because we know of someone whose deadly wound was healed and was resurrected. Amen. You know, so, you know, could this be some type of deception that speaks to that? Don't know, could be. But it goes on, it tells us that this false prophet, if you would, he doeth great wonders, so that make fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. You know, now this was a wonder that Elijah actually did. You know, and it was thought that, you know, no one can make fire come from heaven except Elohim be with him. You know, but here it is, we see this guy. He's actually doing it. And it says in verse 14, it says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had the power to do in the sight of the beast. So this cat right here is able to do all types of miracles, signs, and wonders, so much so that he's going to cause many of the saints to actually be deceived. See, this is the trap. This is the ensnare of the waters that's going to be upon the earth. This is how they're going to become ensnared. This is how they're going to be trapped. This is how they're going to be deceived. It goes on in verses 15 through 17 to say, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. So here it is, how this thing works is this guy come on the scene, you know, and the one that the beast that the saints thought they had killed, you know, this guy comes up and he gives life to him, you know, and now here it is, he gives life to him, and he causes many of the people of the earth, all the people of the earth, to side with him by doing these miracle signs and wonders. You know, and so he tells them, he says, y'all make an image to this beast that had the wound by a sword and did live. You know, the sword that killed him was the word. You know, but he's saying, you know, those that dwell on the earth, thou make an image to the beast, which had the wound by sword and did live. See, and this is how he's going to fool so many people. And it says in verse 15, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. So here it is, he had man make an image, and then he brought life to that image in which they made. That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So here it is, you know, this false prophet, if you would, this false prophet, he not only brings life back to this beast that seemed to be dead for all intents and purposes, but then he convinces humanity to actually make an image. And then when they make that image, he actually brings life to that image. And then that image began to speak. And the image began to cause as many as would not worship the image to be killed. And he causes all of them to take a mark. Now this is not the same mark that Yah marked his people with. This is the mark of the beast. And if you didn't take the mark, you couldn't buy or sell. You think some people are going to be deceived by all this? You know, 2 Thessalonians speak to this as well. And beginning in chapter 2 with verse 8, it says, and then shall the wicked be revealed. Speaking of this wicked one, whom the Adonai shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Speaking to that first beast. even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, or Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness and unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. See, the only thing that we're going to be able to hold on to ensure us from not falling into this snare, is the truth. You say, well, Pastor Obadiah, what is the truth? Well, I can only tell you what Scripture says the truth is. Yochanan 17:17 says, thy word is truth. Yeah. The word of Elohim is truth. This is the only thing that we're going to have to hold on to keep from being ensnared by this flood of lies that's going to be, and death that's going to be raining upon the earth. That's what we're going to have to hold on to, the truth. Yes, hallelujah. The word of Elohim. Verse 9, 2 Thessalonians 2:9, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with deceitfulness. I already read that, didn't I? Verse 11, and for this cause Elohim shall send them strong delusion. Yes. See, this is where you don't want to find yourself. No, you don't. See, and the reason is because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. They didn't receive the word. You know, and it says, for this cause, because they don't receive the word of Elohim, for this cause, Elohim shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. You know, they didn't want to believe the word of Elohim because they was having pleasure in unrighteousness. You know, and this is the whole thing, you know. It's either we're going to be lovers of truth and abhorrers of unrighteousness. There's no straddling the fence. There's no mixing the two. You have to choose one side or another. See, you can't really see that right now, see, but, you know, this time that's coming will be like a fork in the road. You won't be able to turn back. And at the same time, you're going to have to decide to go to the left or to the right. You're going to have to either take this mark of the beast, or you're going to have to choose the word of Elohim. So, you know, this is what it's going to come down to. See, but I'm here to tell you today that you don't have to wait until that time. You can choose the word of Elohim even now today. Why wait till you're forced to make a decision? I've already chosen. You know, I'm going to hold on to the truth until the end. Genesis 8:2 says, the fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. You know, so now the water is just upon the earth. Death is ruling and reigning on the earth. Genesis 8:3, and the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of 150 days, the waters were abated. So here it is, we have a period where the waters are just on the earth, and then they begin to slowly descend. And after 150 days, the waters were abated. Now, Scripture also tells us, you know, what's going to be going on for this 150 days. You know, now, scriptural month is 30 days. 30 times 5 is what? 150. So 5 months equals 150 days. Everybody with me? Yeah. All right. Let me have my next reader read Revelation 9:5-11.
And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion, and he striketh a man, when striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it. and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And their heads were as it were clowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots, of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Okay, so this speaks to a time when death will truly be reigning upon the earth. You know, the Messiah described as one of the worst times, at the worst time the earth will ever experience. You know, yeah, it's gonna be quite something. You know, now here it is. We see that Apollyon or Abaddon, you know, he's gonna be the king, and he's gonna be speaking these blasphemous things, and he's gonna be hurting all those upon the earth. You know, but he's not going to be killing, he's just going to be hurting them. You know, it says in verse 5, it says, but that they shall be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. You know, and when a scorpion strikes a man, it actually poisons the man. And the poison begins to work from the inside out. You know, and the poison begins to actually break down the flesh and cause it to become like mush. You know, and then the scorpion likes to slurp that mush out, you know, and consume it. You know, but this is how the sting of a scorpion is, and it's, you know, it's very, 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 very painful. You know, they say the scorpion sting is quite painful. You know, some scorpions are, you know, stings are quite deadly. But it tells us that they should be tormented 5 months. And we see again in verse 10, it says, and they had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and the power was to hurt men 5 months. You know, so this is the time when Abaddon will be reigning upon the earth, him and his locust army, and he'll be tormenting the people. You know, and at the same time, you know, you're going to have those who are coming into with Elohim, who has the mark of Elohim, who's sealed by the Most High, whom he can't hurt, going to be fighting against him. And going to seemingly overcome him, but, you know, that other guy going to rise up and heal him. You know, verses 3 and 4 says, and the waters returned off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days were abated. I forgot to mention, you did see the 150 days, right? Mm-hmm. 5 months. You know, in verse 5 and verse 10, you know, 5 months, 150 days. You know, this is the time when he's ruling and he's just putting the hurt on all humanity. And it says, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. In verse 4, and the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 7th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. Now, the number 100 speaks to the children of promise, as well as Elohim's election of grace. And the number 50 speaks to liberty or jubilee. And we have the word abated, where it speaks of the waters being abated, is kasher. Number 2637 means to lack or lessen. And then we have Ararat, which speaks to the curse reversed. So here it is, we get to a point to where the waters be turning off of the earth, you know, and after 150 days, they become lessened. So this spoke to the time in which Apollyon or Abaddon would be reigning and be putting the hurt on people for 5 months. It's going to be a horrible time. And after that, then the curse will be reversed. And it speaks about the ark resting on the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. So speaking about the time when the curse is reversed, does this time sound, this time frame should sound familiar to some of you, because this time frame equates to the time of tabernacles. It speaks to the time of tabernacles. Hence, we see those that were marked also symbolizing the time of tabernacles. When we look at those that were marked in Revelation 7, we see, after this I behold and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, all of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. The palm, we were commanded to hold palms during the time of utilize palms during the time of tabernacles. Hence we read in Leviticus 23:40, it says, and ye shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook, and ye shall rejoice before Yahuwah your Elohim 7 days. So can you see tabernacles in that? Here it is. They even have palms in their hands. And this speaks to the time of tabernacles, and the people who were sealed, that is marked of Elohim, they come out, during the time of tabernacle. So Scripture is teaching us what's going to happen in the time to come. Verse 5. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. Okay? Now, the number 10 speaks to law and responsibility. And the number 1 speaks to the number of Elohim, and it speaks to unity. So within this, we can see, those who have the law and responsibility of Elohim, and are unified with him, are at one with him. In other words, are covenanted with him. And this word, the tops, is actually rosh, in the Hebrew, which means the head. It speak to the chief or leader or captain. And there's also a time in that Revelation speaks of, in dealing with the last time, when the tops of the mountains will be seen. That is, when the chiefs or the leaders of the nations will be seen. Even those 12,000 from each tribe of Israel, and those who have white robes, those can be likened unto the tops of the mountains. Mountains are symbolic or typified nations, within the word. So here it is, we see a spiritual picture of the chiefs of the nations being seen. And in Revelation 6:8-11, we see that it says, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him. See, this is a time when death is literally reigning, and it says, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. And when he had opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Elohim and for the testimony which they held. See, now we're getting to the part, where, now that the false prophet is on the scene, there's not just hurt going on, there's actually killing going on. And those who are going to be killed out are going to be the saints. But it's all part of the plan. See, and that's what we have to understand, that it's all part of the plan. See, but if we don't understand the plan, then we're going to be deceived. If we don't understand the plan, we're going to be deceived. The only thing that we have to hold on to is the word of Elohim, as I said before. Hence, we see here in verse 9, it says, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Elohim. Can you see that they were holding on to the word of Elohim even unto death? But they didn't just have the word of Elohim. They also had the testimony which they held, which was the testimony of Yahshua. And verse 10 says, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Adonai, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto them, every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So you see the white robes were given unto every one of them. Now you know how that group that was without number that had the white robes on, you know how they got them. They got them by holding on to the word of Elohim and the testimony of Yahshua. And they were slain for it. You know, and I know that's hard. That's a hard word. That's a hard word. You know, that, you know, hey, I'm going to be called to lay down my life for this. Yeah, I know it's a hard word, but that's what the word teaches. You know, the Messiah said it another way. He said, you know, those who seek to save their lives shall lose them. And those who lose them for my name's sake shall save them. You know, he also would say, pick up your torture stake and follow me. Well, when he picked up his torture stake, what did he go do? So when we pick up our torture stake, what do you think we're called to do? You know, and this actually comes up a lot in our lessons, you know, the same thing, you know, and I think it's just Yah just trying to pound it into our head. But no matter how much he pounded, when it actually come to pass, you know, many people are going to just forget everything that they heard today, and they're going to, you know, let fear override them, and they're going to be deceived. They're going to let go of the word of Elohim, and they're going to do what they feel they got to do in order to save their lives. But in saving them, they're going to actually be losing them. But those who actually are willing to lose them will be the ones who save them. You know, this is what the word teaches. Verse 6, Genesis 8:6, it says, and it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he made. Now the number 40 speaks to tests and trials. So can you see that the water was upon the earth for 150 days. Then the water began to lessen. You know, then it gets to, it lessens to the point to where, you know, the ark actually rests on the 17th day, you know, comes to tabernacles, where the ark actually rests in the 7th month on the 17th day on Mount Ararat, or a time when the curse is actually reversed. You know, and so here it is. Here it is. We see that the waters are decreased continually until the 10th month. 10th month on the first day, and you know, it's during the time when the law and responsibility, you know, is held on to, and those people are holding on to it. They're unified with Elohim. These will be the tops of the mountain, the chiefs, the leaders. These are the ones that lead the way. You know, and these are the very same ones that will be seen up under the altar, whose souls were slain for the word of Elohim and for the testimony which they held. And they're going to be crying for the Most High to take vengeance for them. And it was said unto them that they should rest for a little season until their fellow servants and brethren should be killed as they were. So this is a time just for this. Can you see that? You know, this is a time of testing and trials. And hence, in verse 6, of Genesis 8, it says, and it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark, which he had made. So at the end of these testings and trials, then the window will be open. You know, and Scripture speaks to this time as a time of testing and trials, a time of the patience of the saints, as it says. This word, it speaks to a time of endurance. In Revelation 14, 9 through 13, we read, it says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image. Now these are the ones that actually choose to worship the beast and the image and receive his mark in their forehead or in his hand. You know, whether they're deceived or whether they do it knowingly, you know, these are the ones who receive his mark. It says, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and never. And they shall have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. So men are going to be tormented of Abaddon, you know, for 5 months. But those who take his mark, they're going to be tormented for generations to come. And verse 12 says, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahushua. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, right, blessed are the dead which died in the Adonai from henceforth. Yea, saith the Ruach, that they may rest from their labors and their works do follow them. That's huge. That's huge. Can you see that the test and trial is to see who's going to hold on to the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahushua unto death? That's the test and trial. That's the patience of the saints. This word patience is hupamone. Yeah. Number 5281. And it means a cheerful or hopeful endurance. These are the ones who endure the trial. These are the ones who overcome the beast. Talk about the overcomers. This is where they come into play. This is what they have to overcome. You know, and Scripture even goes on to say that those who live by the sword will die by the sword. Those who lead into captivity will go into captivity. See, there's a way that you have to do this thing. There's a way that you have to endure. You can't do it your way. But they shooting at me. Yeah, I know, but you can't shoot back. Yeah. You can swing your sword, i.e. the word of Elohim. See, but that's what we're to do. Keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahushua. That's what we're called to do. And blessed, from this point, blessed are the dead which die in Adonai from henceforth. It's going to be a blessing. It's going to be a blessing to die for the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahushua. This is the trial that's going to be upon the earth. You know, it's going to be a real exciting time. You know, time like no other. But I pray that we're around during this time, that these lessons such as this one come back to your heart. That it will serve as a reminder unto you what the word of Elohim says. That it will serve as a reminder that, you know, there's going to come a time when death was going to be reigning on the earth. And it says that people are going to be seeking death, and death going to run from them. Because he's going to be tormenting them. And then there's going to come a time when people not going to want to die, but they're going to be dying. They're going to be dying because they want to hold on to the commandments of Elohim. They're going to be dying because they won't let go of their faith in Yahushua. These are the ones that's going to be blessed. These are the ones that's going to be as Noah and the animals on the ark, i.e. saved. You know, as many as there were in the ark with Noah, you know, it was still just a drop in the bucket in comparison to all the people in the world that died. That's not there for nothing. It's to show you that there's going to be a parallel in the end times. You know, it's a lot of people that's going to perish. It's going to be a lot of our loved ones that's going to perish, who's just not going to believe it. You know, they're not going to be holding on to the word of Elohim because they're not going to know the word of Elohim. They're going to be holding on to what they feel and what looks right, and the fears that snatches them up. And we're going to be those that's standing, you know, for the commandments of Elohim and for the faith in Yahushua, and they're going to, you know, think we're the bad guys. You have to be able to see this picture, because if you don't, you're going to be deceived. This is not going to be nothing to play with. This is going to be a strong delusion, as we read. It's going to be a strong delusion. You know, I just pray that, you know, none of us fall for it. That's all I have for you today. Pray it was a blessing.